Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, welcome back to the last lecture of this week, that is lecture 10. And now we just discussed about, if you remember in lecture 9, that how we go about alignment of vision, goals and strategy at different levels. So, we presented a hierarchy of strategies that has to be congruent and consistent with each other. Similarly, we also see that how we are going to align them. So, now in this part or in this lecture probably, we are going to see that how this strategy and performance can be aligned, because these strategies are made in order to achieve the goals and objectives of the organization. So, in what way these strategies is going to help to achieve the objectives and what kind of alignment we are looking forward to. Now, so, when we are talking about alignment and performance management, so far we have been talking about the alignment, right? So, here what we have been talking about, that the extent to which employees are connected to the units in terms of what their goals and objectives are, the extent to which units are connected to the corporate office, right? Because if you look at this alignment, it has to be consistent across the corporate business units and also at the unit and also at the individual and the group level. So, when we are talking about alignment, it says the extent to which employees are similarly connected to or have a consistent line of sight. It means that everybody is going to see the common theme, which is related to the vision and mission of the organization and also the strategy. So far we have been talking about vision, mission and strategy of the organization. So, make sure that everybody is thinking alike when it comes to vision, mission and say corporate strategy of the organization. Otherwise, what will happen? If you are thinking in different directions, you are not connected well with the similar thing, probably will not be able to achieve what you want to have, right? So, if you look at this alignment, it has three elements. The first element is that how employees' behavior and results with the unit, department and overall organization is aligned. That is what we have been advocating so far. So, you need to ensure that yes, the employees' behaviors and performance is contributing to the unit performance, right? Then the department performance, then the department is going to contribute to the unit performance, then unit is going to contribute to the organizational performance, and this has to be aligned. So, there has to be a common set of thinking across the different hierarchy of the organization, starting with the corporate level, the business unit level, the department level and the organization level, right? Now, another kind of connection that we need to look at, it probably we have not looked at earlier, is that how it is aligned with the needs and expectations of the customers. Because ultimately, whatever you are doing for in the organization is to satisfy the needs and expectations of your customers, right? For example, maybe in an educational institution, we have aligned our activities and contributing to the organizational performance. Very good. But whether we are also fulfilling the needs and expectations of the customers. Say, for example, for an educational institute, who are our customers? They are businesses, industries, the government, because that is where the people are going and working after passing out from here. So, you have to see that you are going to produce goods and services which meets the expectations of the customers. So, you need to go for another kind of alignment and you need to ensure that your products and services are aligned with the needs and expectations of the customer. That is more important. Now, third kind of alignment is that you have to see that your behavior is in sync with the organization. So, you need to see that in what way you are going to contribute to the organization in terms of its reputation, its brand image and these kind of things, right. So, here we are talking about three different types of alignment and all of them actually are linked with each other. Now, if you look at this picture, it would be clear to you that how we go about this kind of alignment. Okay. So, we talked about three kind of alignments. at the individual level, at the brand level, at the organization level, brand level, and also at the customers level. Now, if you look at this, you can see that how each one of them are going to have alignment with each other. So, now look at the first point, that is policies, goals and values. Okay. Now, the thing is that as an individual or as a group, whether you understand what the company is doing, in what kind of business it is, what are the objectives, goals and organizations of your department, and whether you know that how your department goals are going to fit into the organizational goals and objectives, right? Similarly, you also see that how your job is supporting or contributing to the performance or to supporting to the strategy of the organization, right? And what kind of activity you are doing, whether your activities are creating high value or low value, means depending upon your contribution and its relevance and importance for the organization. So, you create low value if you are doing certain things which does not contribute much, which is not important and relevant. So, it is not a value addition. Value addition happens only when you are doing something which is critical, important, relevant for the organization and contribute to the performance of the organization, right. So, you have to see that you are going to create high value activities, so which leads to value addition to the organization, not only to the individual but also to the organization. Then you should be clear about your priorities, what you are doing, right, in what way you are going to contribute. Okay. So, you decide about your priority in terms of activities. So, you do those things which contribute to high value activities. Then you also need to see that your accountabilities and performance are aligned with the department and unit. That is very, very important. For example, you are doing certain things which contributes to department performance. Department performance then is aligned with the unit performance, right? And at the same time, you are using certain metrics to evaluate performance at different levels, right? Now, moving to the next part, that is the brand, that how this brand is going to help you to align, which also directly and indirectly lead to performance, right? Now, as a individual, you are working in an organization, okay? So, you are also contributing in developing the identity of the organization, its reputation and its organization as a brand, right? For example, the moment I say that yes, I am a student of IIT Kharagpur, so what does it mean? It gives certain signal to the people, or it communicates certain understanding to the people that who I am and what I am doing there, right? So, you have to understand the promise that is given by the brand. Okay, it means that it signals certain things in terms of quality, in terms of consistency, in terms of characteristics, in terms of knowledge, skill that you have, right? So, it is very, very important that you understand these things, that in what way you are creating the brand that is required by the organization, right? So, it depends upon how you are using your resources, how you take decisions, whether your activities are consistent with the brand or not. For example, if you are not ethically behaving, so you are basically damaging the reputation of the organization, right? So, some of your activity may be related to not deteriorating performance, but looking at it, you can say that it is going to affect the brand value of the organization. For example, as a student of IIT Kharagpur, if you are say applying for a job and you are attending the interviews, and then interviewer expects something from you, that yes, you are from IIT, so we expect certain things from you. Okay? But if you are not consistent with the brand promise, what IIT Kharagpur delivers, probably you are damaging the reputation of the brand. So, it is very, very important that your activities are aligned with the brand, so that you are able to build up the reputation and identity of the organization, right? And third thing that as I told you is related to what you call the customers. This alignment is also required at the customer level, because whatever you are doing, ultimately you are going to market your products and services outside the organization. Okay, so you must meet the requirement of the customer. So, make sure that whatever you do in terms of activities leading to products and services is meeting the expectations of the customers, right? So, because your performance is linked with the customer. If customer is not going to adapt to your product, probably you are not able to do your business well. For example, if students who are passing out from say IIT are not getting a job in terms of not meeting the business needs or the industry needs, then what happens? It means that it raises a question about the credibility of IIT Kharagpur, not only as a brand, but also the kind of students that we are producing, right? So it also raises a question about the quality of the students. So it is very, very important to ensure that you are going to produce goods and services which meets the requirements of the customers. So for that, what you need to do is that you need to understand what is the requirement, and accordingly you adopt that into your activities so that you are going to produce goods and services which is meeting the requirement of the customers. Okay. So we have talked about alignment at different levels, at the individual level, at the brand level, at the customer level. Now what we are going to discuss further, that if you are not able to align well, then what happens? For example, the example I have just given, that if there is low alignment, you are not meeting the customer's requirement in terms of offering good quality students, then probably you are not contributing to the brand image, and you are basically damaging the reputation and entity of the organization, right? So if you look at some of the consequences which are negative in the approach, like confusing brand promise, okay, it means that either you are not suitable or your brand is not good. So the customers may be confused whether you are really a student of IIT or you are not fitting into the system. So they will think that the kind of promise that they expect from the brand is not coming forward to, right? So you might be doing certain activities which are not aligned with the units or the goals of the organization, then it means that whatever you are doing, it is not a value creation activity. So sometimes what happens, we perform certain urgent activities which may not be important, okay. So these urgent activities may not be contributing or may not be adding value to the business. What adds value to the business is those important and critical activities. So whether you are performing those important and critical activities or you are doing something that comes to you and considered as urgent, but it is not contributing to the business, right? Similarly, if you are not able to compete because the productivity is low, so that is also leads to what you call low alignment. So the business impact of low alignment is very bad, because if you look at the non-competitive costs, non-competitive cost means that you are not able to compete, that what happens? Your product would be bad, sales would be worst, your revenue will not be generated, okay. So there could be different kind of cost which may result from low productivity, okay. Then misdirected activities are talents. If the kind of talent that you have, you need to ensure that you are going to go for a maximum utilization or what you call an optimum utilization of the talent, and make sure that your talent is matching the requirement of the organization, okay. So that there is a better job person fit. So you need to use your talent judiciously, okay, in an optimum way so that it contributes to the performance, okay. But if you are doing those activities, or if your talent is doing those activities which is not required, is not related to any kind of value addition, then what happens? Again, your activities are not aligned with your own performance, and your performance will not be able to contribute to the organizational performance, okay. Another important issue is that though you are working hard but not smart, okay. So it is very, very important to identify what are those critical activities, right? And remember, in the beginning we talked about key result areas or key performance areas. So you need to identify what are those key performance areas which contributes maximum to your performance, and then you focus on those, commit yourself, be motivated enough, put your effort so that you are able to achieve those goals, instead of doing so many things which does not contribute to your performance. But it might lead to a lot of stress and burnout in you. So you may feel exaggerated, you may feel helpless, you think that you are not contributing enough, though you are working hard, but you find that your contribution is not being recognized, it is not helping the organization to achieve its goals and objectives, right? There could be other issues, like if you are overstaffed or understaffed, okay, it is again a low value creation activities, right? Then if you are not able to execute your strategy properly, that is also a problem, okay. If you are not able to work as a team, right, or the different departments do not coordinate vertically and horizontally, then that is also a problem. If you are losing your talent to your competitors, that is also an issue. And if your customers are not satisfied and they are not being retained by you, so all these are the outcome of what you call the low alignment. And that is why when we are talking about alignment with the people, brand, and the customer, it is very, very important for better organizational performance. Moving further, see how strategy and behavior disconnect happens. Okay. Now, here this is the result of a survey, of a study, which suggests that if there is a disconnect between the strategy and the behavior of the employees at different levels, what will happen? It means that it would lead to low alignment, resulting in bad performance. So, what are the factors and the extent to which they happen? So, some of the factors, like if there is a high agreement or low agreement, what will happen? Okay. If you are not going to look at your strategy, and how are you going to measure a strategy, different kind of things like balanced scorecard that is developed by Kaplan. So, what I am trying to tell you here is that you need to see that how strategy and behavior, if they are disconnected, it is results in bad performance. Okay. So, in this study what happens, there are a number of raters, and then they try to find out that this disconnect at different levels leads to what. So, if the maximum loss is there if company does not have an agreed on strategy. Okay. Then if you are not able to measure the performance of your strategy. Okay. Then next is if it is not linked to business and unit level. Okay. And again, with these goals and strategies are not linked with each other. Then the individual accountability and capabilities are not linked with each other. And finally, if performance and reward is not linked with each other. Okay. And if you are able to understand your role or not, that in what way you are going to contribute to the business strategy. So, if you look at some of these issues, these are very, very important, and if there is a disconnect, then it is not going to help you to achieve the goals and objectives of the organization. So, it is very, very important to ensure that you have a strategy at different levels, make sure that it is linked with each other, linked with the target, individuals have the capabilities, it is linked with the reward, right, and they understand in what way they are going to contribute to the business. Now, the another important question is, which has come out of this study, is that okay, what are those factors which drive alignment, strategic alignment? So, the alignment with the performance. Okay. So, if you remember some of the points that we just talked about, like there has to be a clear agreed on vision and strategy. It means that when we are talking about a strategy at different levels, you make sure that business units and also the corporate headquarters have their own vision, mission and strategy, and it has to be in alignment and consistent with each other. Okay. First point. Second point that has come out is that how this vision and strategy is translated into goals and objectives, right. So, make sure that when you have identified vision and mission, okay, based on that you are able to identify your goals, and in order to achieve your goals, you see that what kind of a strategy you are going to adopt in order to achieve these goals and objectives, right. Third point is that this vision, mission, goals, strategy, whatever you have, make sure that people are accepting it. Okay. If people don't accept it at their vision, their mission, their strategy, probably it will not be possible for the organization to see that individuals work for it, right. So, make sure that individual accepts and have a passion to achieve it, right. Otherwise, they will not be able to achieve these strategic goals at whatever level it is, whether it is corporate level, at the individual level, the unit level, right. Similarly, you also need to ensure that the requirement of the organization and the capabilities of the people are matching, right. So, it means that people have sufficient capabilities in terms of information, resources and talent, so that they are able to deliver behavior that is required to achieve the goals and objectives. So, where you are matching the individual capabilities with the requirements of the organization. So, you have to identify what is the requirement of the organization in terms of skills and whether people have those skills or not. And then you are going to match those skills and capabilities to ensure that it helps in achieving the goals and objectives. Okay. And another important issue is that feedback. Okay. So you need to give regular feedback, frequent feedback at different stages, at different levels, to ensure that these goals are achieved, because these basically acts as a motivator. You know that how much you have achieved, what is the level of your performance, what else you have to do, how much time frame you have, whether it is possible for you to achieve this within a given time frame or not, right? So giving clear and timely feedback is very, very important, and that helps you to achieve the goal, because it also acts as a driver, because you know that, okay, this is what we have achieved, this much time is left, and how I am going to achieve these goals, right? And finally, you remember we talked about linking incentives, because if you are not going to link performance with rewards, it is not going to motivate people. Maybe one time they will do it, but next time they would think that why I am going to use my capabilities, what for, if I am not being rewarded for what I do. So you need to adequately compensate. So you need to design an incentive system in such a way so that people are going to use their capabilities to their best to achieve the goals and objectives. Okay. So what we have discussed here in this slide is that what are the factors which are going to drive this kind of alignment. So some of the points that we have discussed here, like clear agreement on a strategy, okay, at the top level, at the corporate level, okay. Say they should know what is the strategy, and they must understand it, and also they should not develop competing strategies. For example, at the business unit level, there could be different strategies, but they should not compete with each other, but at the same time they should collaborate with each other. Similarly, you will find even at the functional level, at the operational level, you have a marketing strategy, you have product strategy, you have finance related strategy, you have HR strategy. So these strategies are also not competing with each other, right? The strategy should be designed in such a way so that you expect better support and cooperation from the managers of these units or these departments, and make sure that these strategies are aligned with each other to support the goals and objectives of the organization, right? Next point that we talked about, translating vision and strategy, right? Make sure that it is open. Everybody know what is the goals and strategy of the organization. Everybody know what is the vision and strategy, right? So you need to communicate it down the line to everybody in the organization, okay, and make them understand what is the strategy. If they are not able to understand the strategy, probably they will not be able to contribute. So you need to see that this strategy is further broken down, okay, at different levels, and at each level, whether at the business unit level, the operational level, or at the individual level, it is further broken down into the goals and objectives for everyone. So starting with the individual, okay, you have goals and objectives to achieve, which is contributing to the department, then the unit, and then the organization. And this starts with a top-down approach. So you have a strategy to achieve the goals. So this goals is divided further into department goals, unit goals, department goals, and individual goals. So you have to see that how these goals are aligned with each other at different levels and contribute to strategic objectives. Passion, that is another important factor. So the level of engagement and commitment that is required. It is possible only if you accept it as an individual. Okay, this is what I need to achieve. Okay, so you should embrace it. You should support that how it is going to be implemented. Okay, and you make sure that in both letter and spirit, that's what we call in heart and mind of the employees. So they are not only functionally responsible, but they are also committed and engaged to ensure that they are making all-out effort to achieve the goals and objectives. Okay. And another important issue related to this is that make sure that there is a better job fit. If there is not a better job fit, then probably the person will not be able to perform. Okay. So make sure that the quality of the individual and the job that he is going to do, the task, is matched. Okay. Next issue is role clarity. Okay. That is very, very important. Okay. At each level, you make sure that what is the role that you have. Okay. Because this is going to support the goals and strategy at different levels. Okay. For example, you have clear and more difficult but attainable goals, then it leads to better performance. So make sure that you are very, very clear about the goals. You remember in the goal setting process, we discussed about it, that whatever goal you are going to set, make sure that you are able to achieve it. So, it must be achievable, though it may be a little difficult, because the goal which is set at a challenging level leads to higher performance, right. Then you also see to it that what kind of HR practices you have, right, in terms of compensation, in terms of growth opportunities, in terms of career development, okay, and how they are aligned with the corporate strategy, right. So, HR practices, especially career development and reward system, play a very important role. Then you have a hierarchy of goals at each level, starting with the individual to the unit to the group and the organization, and at each level you ensure that it is aligned with each other, okay. And then make sure that it is leading with, or it is aligned with the strategy of the organization, right. And then regularly re-examine and update your goals, because the environment might change. So, if the environment is changing, so you go for further analysis, identify the level of uncertainty, go for revisiting and have a different kind of mission statement, change your strategy, and then update your goals and strategies that is to be achieved, right. Now, that is what I have been talking about, having a better fit between the job and the person, okay. So, you need to see that how we are going to develop those capabilities, especially knowledge, skill and abilities of the people, which is going to contribute to the performance of the individual. So, here we are talking about capabilities not only at the individual level, but also at the department level and the group level, the organization level. So, you need to identify the set of competencies which would be required at different levels, right, and how it is helping the organization to achieve its goals and objectives, right. It is very, very important, because ultimately it is the people who are going to contribute at different levels, right. At the same time, you also need to provide the information and resources in terms of support, equipments and other things, and the information we are talking about here, two things, okay. The right kind of information, there should not be an overload of information, and must get the quality information and the right amount of information to perform their job effectively. Next point that we talked about, clear and timely feedback. Yes, giving and receiving feedback is very, very important, okay, because it helps you to improve your performance, okay. So, make sure that feedback is closer to the performance itself, because if he has performed today and we are giving feedback after 6 months, it does not become effective. So, make sure that feedback is given immediately after the performance has happened, and also ensure that it is not judgmental, it is more constructive and developmental. It means the idea of giving performance is to improve the individual, okay, so that he understands what are his weaknesses, what are his strengths, and how to overcome them, right. And that is why we call it to be developmental. So, if you are giving constructive feedback, it actually helps individuals to improve. If you become judgmental, then people might be defensive, okay. And then you conduct feedback sessions in a non-threatening manner. Make sure that people don't become offensive or become defensive also. So, they take it as it is, okay. And then you go for regular continuous discussion with the employees about their performance, so that it helps them to improve their performance. Now, the final point that we have been talking about, linking incentive with the performance, that is very, very important. If you are not going to link performance with the compensation, it does not make much sense, because it is not going to motivate further employees. So, make sure that whatever is achieved by the organization, in terms of its contribution, okay, it is shared by everybody in the organization. So, you might have different kind of performance related incentives, different kind of plans through which you can share the benefits of the organization in terms of revenue, other things with the employees, right. So, make sure that you provide them meaningful rewards which is appropriate to them, and give this reward in a timely way, so that people understand and appreciate it, right. You can go for a more flexible, you can go for a reward system, or you can go for a financial rewards and non-financial rewards, depending upon the requirement of the individual, right. So, different kind of incentives could be used in order to perform. And now, finally, I am giving this example to explain that how a low-cost airline has tried to link its strategy, goals, behavior and rewards. So, whatever we have discussed now, we are going to take an example to explain it further. Now, if you look at a low-cost airline, right, in India also, you know that we have different kind of low-cost airlines like SpiceJet, Indigo, right, and they have been performing very well. In US, there is a very good example of Southwest Airlines, which have been consistently performing very well, right? Now, if you look at this example, you can understand that how strategy and goals are linked with the behavior and the reward, so that they are able to perform very well, right? Now, the idea of low cost airline means that you are going to compete on the basis of which strategy, that is cost leadership, right? So, when you are going to for cost leadership as a strategy and your goal is to achieve certain targets in terms of performance, right? Okay. For example, Indigo says that they are 100% on time. So, that could be one of the performance criteria, right? So, now if you are looking at this performance criteria and you are linking it with the strategy, that is competing on the basis of low cost leadership. So, how you are going to execute this strategy to achieve the goals of and objectives of the organization, and at the same time what kind of employee behavior you expect and how it is linked with the reward, right? Now, if you look at this, you have to understand certain things like how you are going to leverage your aircraft, right? Because you are going to create a brand image. See, we are talking about three things, remember? We talked about policies, goals and values of the people. We also talked about the brand, and we also talked about the customer requirements. They need to be aligned with each other. Remember, we talked about that. Now, if you are going to compete on the basis of a low cost leadership, okay, and you want to align all these three things, it means that you want to create an image, a brand for yourself. You are understanding customer requirements and trying to satisfy them in the best possible way, and make sure that people and their behavior is also aligned with this objective, right? Now, what they do as a part of their low cost leadership, what kind of a strategy that they have? That is, they go for low cost ticketing, okay. They have a very lean and productive workforce, okay, and they also go for high aircraft utilization, right? Now, what actually happens if you look at this is a part of their strategy, okay. So, as a part of the low cost leadership, what they do, make sure that yes, they have automatic ticketing systems, okay, and not using travel agents, because that is where they have to give commission to the agents, okay. Then with the when it comes to lean and productive workforce, they make sure that okay, there is a high level of stock ownership, they have union contracts for performance related issues, and similarly they also need to ensure that their aircrafts are not sitting idle, okay. So, there is a maximum utilization of their aircrafts, okay. So, they are using satellite airports, I mean those are airports which are not used by others, okay. They are going to say tier 2, even tier 3 cities, okay, and they have a standard efficient system for maintaining these aircrafts, right? Because especially if you look at the cost in the airline businesses, that is basically how you are using your flights or aircrafts, right? For example, if you are taking more than 30 minutes at a particular halt, it means that it increases your costs, right? So, you will find that if you have traveled by any of these airlines, the moment that they are going to land, you know that they start the cleaning process, okay, so that they are going to utilize that particular time to ensure that they are ready for the next flight, right? So, utilization is very, very important for them. And then what are the sectors that you are covering, right? What is your turnaround period, okay, once you land, and then how much time you take to flight for the next, right? So, these are the issues that they have looked into when it comes to a strategy part. And then the three things that we have discussed earlier, like how it is going to help them to create a brand for themselves, whether they are meeting the customer requirements or not, and how people and their behavior is contributing to this, so that you are able to compete on the basis of low cost airlines, right? So, once you have a low cost airline strategy or low cost strategy, then make sure that your goals and objectives are aligned with that one, with this strategy, and also the behavior of the people are aligned with that one, and make sure that those who are performing, they are being rewarded, okay. Thank you very much.